Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. My name's FPL Phillips, or Eddie, and today I'm bringing you episode 3 of our new series, Eddie versus the Algorithm, where every single week of the season I'm going to be putting together my own dream team of the week to try and beat the Fantasy Football Fix calculated algorithm team. So without further ado, before we get on to next week, we need to have a quick catch up on how I did last week against the algorithm, and did I score more points to try and equalise and make it 1-1 in the series after the algorithm took the win in game week 1. So let's have a quick catch up on the scores. In goal last week, the algorithm got a clean sheet with Sanchez. This is the algorithm team, if you haven't noticed. But yeah, defence-wise, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Tsimikas, Diaz and Dunk, absolutely fantastic performance by the defence. I'm a bit jealous I didn't go with this exact defence myself, because Dunk and Sanchez provided some really good value in there for the algorithm, and very, very well predicted indeed. In midfield, a sub was needed off the bench for Kevin De Bruyne, who didn't feature, and that was Brownhill who came in, along with Salah made up 2 blanks on the bench. Mahrez, of course, was rotated by Pep as well, but did manage to get a goal from the substitutes bench. And then up front, the algorithm did pretty well indeed, with Antonio and Ings scoring the majority of the points, and another Tony blank. So 3 blanks in the attack, really the only downside for the algorithm 11, without a captain, bearing in mind. He scored 83 points, an absolutely fantastic total, with Diaz, Tsimikas, Trent and Antonio, along with those few other returns from Mahrez, Dunk and Sanchez, helping the majority of the score to be brought up. But there could have been potential for more, because on the bench we could see Bachmann, De Bruyne, Hayden all doing pretty poorly, but Duffy there sat at 3rd sub with 14 points. Really unlucky, but an amazing prediction by the algorithm to have him sat there on the bench. Just a lot of people did, to be honest. But yeah, he very nearly made his way onto the pitch. Auto subs obviously took De Bruyne off for Brownhill, who was sat at 2nd sub. Hayden was 1st, if you saw last week's video. Duffy was 3rd sub. So if he was a bit higher at the bench, he would have been on the pitch, and I would have been definitely in trouble. But I still think I could be in trouble anyway. So let's move in to catch up on how I did, and did I manage to beat this fantastic score. So here is how I fared for game week 2, and immediately there's a big hole in my team, and that is Mikel Antonio. 16 points, obviously, absolutely bummed. I'm really glad I had him in my own team, and alongside Said Benrahma. But I personally just didn't see West Ham wiping the floor with Leicester as much as they did. They look absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it's definitely going to change my decision-making process for this week. But I don't know, it was good to see for my team anyway, but we've taken a firm L to the algorithm this week. I think we were 9 points off the algorithm, which wasn't too bad. But yeah, definitely could have been a lot better for us. And that, of course, does make it, unfortunately, 2-0 to the algorithm in this series, which I suppose either means 2 things. It either means the algorithm's pretty good, or I'm pretty rubbish, or it could mean both. So yeah, make of it what you will. We're taking a firm L so far in this series, but I'm confident I can get back on track this week. I really didn't think come Monday night that I would be losing. I was, slightly ahead. That 16-pointer, made all the difference. If not, it was quite a comfortable win for me. I was quite a few points ahead. 2 points from Antonio, and it's a completely different ball game. But yeah, let's move on, wipe the slate clean, and move on to what the algorithm team has selected for its game week 3 selection. So we'll see if we can fare a little bit better this week, and here is the algorithm 11 that you're waiting for game week 3, and so as you can see below me, as of game week 2, the score is 2-0 to the algorithm. So I really need to pull some tricks out of the bag and actually try and get a victory. It's going to end up being a whitewash at this point, but yeah, hopefully this can be the week. But it just goes to show you this algorithm is pretty good and pretty spot on. So if you're looking for some players to bring in for 1 week punt only, or some of them could be long-term potentially great picks as well, then these could be the players for you. In goal this week, it's going to be Kasper Schmeichel of Leicester against Norwich. After conceding 4 goals, though, it's a slight surprise he gets in there. But of course, Norwich yet to score this year. They have played Liverpool and Man City, but still, you'd have to say that there's a good chance of a clean sheet there for the Foxes. And then into defence, some very nice fixtures looking indeed. Soufal against Crystal Palace at home looks like a very good shout, with Reguilon against Watford and Thomas against Norwich. Now, Thomas is a bit of a strange one. I'm not sure if he'll 100% play, so I might have a think about changing that one. But Reguilon looks pretty nice as well. His attacking stats haven't been too fantastic. I did a video where he was featured over on my channel if you want to check that out. So I'm not too certain. I'm not too sold on him. And he also was mentioned in the Price Rises video where he went up to 5.1. Soufal at home to Crystal Palace is my favourite of the 3 shouts. Just looks like a fantastic pick. Crystal Palace are really, really lacklustre this year, and I could see him definitely getting 1 or even more attacking returns this week, as well as a clean sheet. Moving into the midfield then, it's going to be Mohamed Salah still retains his place, Benrahma, Greenwood and Barnes. So Salah, yeah, Chelsea at home after blanking last week. You were thinking maybe he would miss out, maybe someone like a Son could come into this team, but Salah retains his place and he has got a pretty good record against all teams in the league really, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference to him. Well, the question why maybe Trent's not in there if Salah is, but, you know, it's all calculated, it's all done, and, you know, Trent's got a pretty good record against Chelsea. Salah has got a good record, as I mentioned, against pretty much any team. So he can do anything. And it's very, very rare where he really gets a streak up where he blanks. So after not having returned last week, if you believe in that kind of stuff, he's due this week, if you want to use that kind of phrase in inverted commas. And then we've got 2 other players, completing the Leicester triple up with a Barnes and completing the West Ham double up with Benrahma, who... Benrahma is pretty much a no-brainer. Second 12-point haul of the season, and he's pretty bog standard straight into that team at a very cheap price as well. Barnes against Norwich hasn't actually returned anything this season so far, but this may be kind of a last hurrah for owners, and it could be a sign to hold on to him if you're thinking about transferring him out, or if you have done already, then you'll be watching the game behind your sofa, I assume. But Barnes is kind of that player who I can't really see him getting more than 1 return. Even against Norwich, you'd think that like Vardy will be the majority hauling there if it's an absolute annihilation like a few of the Norwich games have been this season. And finally making up the midfield is going to be Mason Greenwood against Wolves, who has had a very, very nice start to the season of the 10-point haul last week, which was fantastic. I had him in my team, but it wasn't quite enough to secure the victory. Against Wolves away, you have to say it's a bit of a tougher fixture. However, I still back him to get something, and he probably will still be starting at striker. Cavani will be on the bench, the news is, against Wolves, so he may get minutes, and Greenwood will probably move out to the right. But with Sancho, surely Sancho's got to start on the right this week with Greenwood up front, and then Pogba off to the left for Man United. That seems to be the majority of predicted lineups, and you can check the predicted lineups over at fantasyfootballfix.com if you want to see them. And then finally, moving into the front line, I assume there's going to be the big man himself, Harold Kane, does make his way in alongside Antonio and Ings, and that just looks like an absolutely devastating front line. If anyone's managed to get that into their actual teams, feel sure to leave it down below, because that is absolutely incredible. That is a brilliant, brilliant front line. It just shows what you can do with no Bruno, really, isn't it, in the majority of these teams. It's hard to afford those kind of striking forces without sacrificing a premium asset such as Bruno and Trent in this team, if you consider that as a downgrade to like a Reguilon or Soufal. It's a very, very budget defence, bit of a premium keeper, but the bench is relatively premium too. So, you know, Sanchez is a 4.5 on the bench, Willock is a 6.0 on the bench. These players, you know, could in actual teams not be as highly priced, and you could have a bit more money to play with. But I really, really do like this team, and I can see it scoring a hell of a lot of points this week. So I'm going to be in for one hell of a challenge to beat this team. But let's go ahead and see what I can come up with to try my best to beat the algorithm for the first time this season. So here we are. This is the team I've gone with to take on the Algorithm 11. As you can see, I've made a few changes, obviously, in the hope that, well, if I don't change anything, I can't beat the Algorithm. The best I can do is draw, and that wouldn't make for a very good video concept anyway. I've gone with Lloris in goal instead of Schmeichel, and then instead of Thomas in defence, I've gone with Pereira. And that's simply because, you know, Thomas may not start, but mainly because Pereira could play out of position, potentially at that right wing spot where Jose Perez is, of course, suspended. I've gone with Cancelo then over Reguilon, just because I think he's more attacking, and Arsenal look really poor this season anyway. I'm really hoping that this week can be the week Cancelo gets an attack in return. In midfield, the most noticeable change is that I've sacrificed Mohamed Salah for Heung-min Son and gone with a double up on the Spurs attack. We've kept Benrahma, we've kept Mason Greenwood, but then we've brought in Rafinha for Harvey Barnes. And Rafinha, of course, he's had a great season so far. I mean, he should have scored in the first week. He did score in the second week. And against Burnley, you'd hope that Leeds get something. I was between him and Bamford, really, but there are a lot of great striking options this week. I did have to sacrifice Danny Ings, as you can see, to bring in Jamie Vardy. I do think Ings has been great. I mean, Brentford haven't conceded a goal this season, and I assume he'll probably be the one to break that deadlock. But Vardy against Norwich just seems too much to pass up on. A team that's conceded 8 goals or a team that's conceded 0 goals. I'm going to go and back the striker who's playing the team that have conceded 8 goals. Antonio and KANE retain their places, of course. I'm not sure if I'd be able to handle watching that Spurs game if I didn't have KANE in, and I was watching that and KANE did start. But of course, it's not the end of the world. You know, Cancelo and KANE, there's a slim chance that they both may not start. Cancelo mainly because of Pep Roulette, but I think he probably will. But I've got Livramento and Armati as those first two subs on the bench anyway, who I really do think will do well this week, and obviously very, very cheap options and very, very good options. Armati specifically probably should be first on the bench, but I think Livramento, this could be the week he delivers on that attacking promise he's been showing and gets the victory and gets an attacking return in particular for Southampton against Newcastle. So yeah, that's going to round up this week's edition of Eddie versus the Algorithm. Who do you think is going to win? Leave it in the comments. To be honest, I'm predicting that I probably won't win this week, but it really all comes down to a few players, as it probably did last week. It came down to one with that Antonio pick that the algorithm got right. I'm still salty about it. As always, these videos do take me quite a while to make, so if you do appreciate it, feel free to drop a like down below. You can also turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a future video, and particular price raises video, our price rises and our price falls videos, where you can keep up to date with all the latest price changes in FPL and make sure you get your squad value up so you can afford all these amazing players that were coming into the fray. You know, if Ronaldo joins FPL, we're going to need all the scheme value we can get. As always, if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and yeah, let me know who do you think is going to win, and don't rinse me too much for how well I'm doing so far. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you can subscribe to my channel as well if you want to see more of this ugly mug, and goodbye.